Hey there, everybody. Parks Owser here with Inven Global, and I'm joined by Inero on his birthday. Happy birthday!
Oh my God, you actually, I didn't even realize you
Yes.
came up with that. Nice.
That's why I just broke my camera
That's
for
what
that
took the
confetti
extra
right
time.
there. Yeah. But happy birthday. You got the win. You have one more game coming up this week.
Yeah.
I know everyone is pushing to playoffs. You just made a swap. What is the team focused on right now?
I mean, our focus is just on getting better in practice. There's not like a focus of, oh, we got to get playoffs or, oh, we got to beat this team this week. No, we're just focused on ourselves, just focused on improving.
So what then? I know you talked about the swap a little bit in the pregame interview. Can you expand on that at all? What was the mindset there? My criticism of it was you chose Keith at the beginning, so you must know, like, obviously he's not going to be as good. So for me, it looks like, just pushing for playoffs. Let's try and get it in. Is there any more that you can talk about on that?
Yeah, it's definitely not done as like a playoff push. I think that would be pretty dumb to do. They're just like, hey, let's swap this up. This will work to get us to playoffs. It was a really tough decision. Obviously, coming into the split, like we kind of knew what to expect from Keith, and the reason the decision was so hard for me to do, because Keith, like none of this had to do like with a problem with Keith. Like Keith did everything we asked of him. He got better on all the things that we asked of him. He was constantly improving and getting better. But we came into the split with the expectation that we had a lot of good communicators on our team. And we do have good communicators, but in our core group of like 3 people in mid game, where it's our support, jungle, and either the AD carry or the mid laner, we needed consistency for very specific things for communication. And that wasn't something that like was Keith's strength. And he's already trying to improve on all these other things, and it's really hard for him to add that extra thing in. He did still, but the level that we needed was something that was already being provided by Jay. And the reasoning for like Jay starting Jay being Huhi, by the way, the reason for him like not starting at the beginning of the split had to do with a bunch of other factors, which played in from just how they were subbed in last year and last split for the LCS. And yeah, unfortunately, just ended up in a case where, this is what we need. We needed this from Jay. And throughout the whole split, we had Samuel Broadley, our two-way player coach, working with our players on Academy that we see as a like viable transition up to LCS, constantly doing things with them and making sure that they're both working on the same things the LCS team are doing, and also on just little individual goals they can have that make them valuable pieces for the LCS team. So Jay was getting constant feedback from Sam, and I think he did well with it. Jay has gotten so much better than he was last year, and that's good to see. But yeah, I just want to make sure it's not seen as a thing of like, hey, we're doing this because Keith is bad, or like we think that Keith is bad. I think Keith is good. I'm really happy with Keith and what he's done this split, and I would be still in the same position where I'm happier to have Keith than I would with other supports that are out there.
Well, thank you for those words. It was interesting for us, I guess, to see. I really appreciate the context around that. So is this, moving forward, are you doing like a double F tactical thing? Like you're reevaluating them every single day to figure out who's going to be starting? How's that going to look?
Is that what they're doing? Are they reevaluating them every day?
Something like that.
No, I mean, this isn't what we told both of the guys. This is most likely a thing where we're committing to this so that we know. Like, I think it's pretty unfair to just go in and say, hey, we're going to start off this week and give you like 3 games or like, 3 days of scrims, and then the other person 3 days of scrims. That makes it really hard on the team to also like gel and see, because at the start of this week when we started with Jay, they didn't start off like that great. We kind of ran it down in some scrims initially, and it's because like the communication stuff is different and the team setup is just a little bit different. But towards the end, like all of our games felt and looked more like the one we played today versus Dig. And it's not like that game was perfect. It was obviously really slow, but it was controlled with us doing exactly what we wanted to do in the game. And whether those decisions were right or not is the main issue, rather than like, oh, we weren't on the same page for this, or oh, this is what was happening, which is what we were running into before, which a lot of people hit on like the ISO death stuff that was happening. And like, that's unfortunately from that generally. So I think it's a thing where, we're sticking with this, sticking with giving Jay time. And, if it's something we have to reevaluate at the like place between the year, like into splits, then, that's what it is. Like we constantly want to make sure we're putting the best team forward of the 10 people that we have. And, you know, this could be something that Keith improves on, and maybe he is the better person, because I think Keith is a great laner for us to have. Yeah, but right now it's a commitment for the end of the split, for sure. And we made sure both of the guys knew that outside of like, you know, disastrous stuff. Right.
Well, I personally think that's the healthier approach. So thank you for, you know, clarifying that.
Yeah, for sure.
And, you know, I agree with you on that decision. I will miss Keith, though. It was fun watching his progression. And I think it was also interesting watching the progression of Golden Guardians. I know at the beginning of the split, people were saying, oh, 9th or 10th place, no matter what. You guys have obviously proven that you're not a 9th or 10th place, at least so far. How did you deal with all of that? And did you even mind it? Are you just like, haha, I told you?
You mean like the stress of like everyone kind of expecting everything like that? I mean, expectations from people are always going to be off. Like no one, if they're like not working the scene, really has the best idea of what they're looking at. It's too difficult. Like up until ProView was here, people would have the same type of like defined expectations of players on the outside looking in, and you have no way to know that. Like unless you're watching like all of their solo queue games from their stream or like spectating their games, like you don't even get to see like what they're doing with their mouse and like you don't see any of those inputs. So ProViews definitely help people start to look at that, but it's not like people have the best expectations of anything yet. I mean, of course, people are accurate that Keith was going to start as like a bottom tier support like that. That was our expectation. That's literally what we were looking at. We wanted someone that was like open-minded and like actually able to play the game well in lane and had an understanding of what he wanted to do in lane. And Keith did that. Keith did really well with that. But our expectations were met on what we had. And our internal expectations were, yeah, this team should be able to get playoffs. We have a bunch of people that are very open-minded. They want to like work together as a team, and they're good teammates. And so it's really like on us as coaching staff to bring that out of them. So if we can actually give them good direction as a team and help them build up on concepts and learn how to play the game, then yeah, of course we'll be a playoff team. And I mean, I know people had like pretty bad expectations of all the players are bad. I guess I don't have like this crazy reputation of, oh, Inero is always winning LCS or anything like that. So people probably think like, oh, this guy's shit too. And then like with Aaron and Sam coming out, like they're coming from Australia. Raz coming in, like coaching for the first time in a long time. Like people would just have low expectations of the coaching staff. But I'm so happy with all of our players, and I was happy with everyone we ended up with. And then yeah, I'm so happy with our staff too. It's like we're not where we want to be yet, but the way we improve is so much better, I feel, than a lot of other teams are improving. So I'm really confident in it.
Good. And I think, you know, talking about your reputation, from what I've seen, I think people respect you. You know, whether they think you're a good coach, I have no idea, but at least respected. I don't really go on Reddit too much though, so who knows? Maybe they'll hate Inero. But I actually want to talk about your reputation some, because where I'm more interested in it is the players. And to me, I haven't seen any other coach have the same kind of respect and following from former players that you do. I think, you know, interactions on Twitter, obviously they can only amount to so much, but it's pretty clear to me that every player that you've had before really respects and appreciates their time with you. Even if, you know, you're only on a team for a couple weeks or whenever. I think you leave a pretty good impact on these players that you are with. So what is it about you? Like, what do you do? How do you approach coaching that you can kind of, I don't know, have this impact on these players?
Yeah, so it's obviously probably not like that with every player I've worked with, but man, that's honestly just kind of the goal as a coach, is to make sure that people learn something from their experience with you, or felt like they improved as a person or a player, just from being around you and like learning things from you and what you can give them. Me, honestly, for practice, I didn't have the best like attempt at it in the last year with like the first GGS roster I worked with. But I took a really hard look at myself with how I was doing things when I like moved to Academy, and it was a big reason why I wanted to move to Academy, because I think I really needed to change how I was approaching things. But I really make sure that I have very set ideas that we focus on during the week, and everyone has like their own level of goals that they can look at. Like coming in this year, the reason we hired 2 former professional players for our coaching spots is because I want players to get individual feedback for things that they're doing early on in the game that I'm necessarily not going to be able to look at all the time. I set up these concepts as like team concepts I want us to focus on, and I look at those things through the game. And obviously, like, I don't have the same perspective as a former player. I've definitely been like a high elo player, but I mean, at this point, it's been so long since I was at that point that I don't have the same perspective I used to. And having guys like that is really important to help players get, just another view on how they're looking at things with someone that does understand it at a relatively similar level to them. And then I'm focusing on the team concepts of this is how we should play out the game. These are things we should look for. And then, just the day-to-day like team environment issues. Normal team shit is like my focus. And I just try to have it be very zeroed in on something. A few teams I've worked on when I work as like an assistant or something, or just kind of like looked in at teams. It ends up being a lot of things of, you just kind of fast forward through the game, starting at like 0 minutes, and you talk about like every mistake that happened, and no one improves that way. And that's always been one of my biggest focuses of just never do that. Focus on like 1 or 2 things per game, get better at this. Like I think at the start of the year, it was actually when we had Jat. Jat came in and watched our scrims one day. That whole week, we just said we're going to herald flip every single game in scrims. We don't care like what's happening in the game when it comes up at that time. We're going to flip and then learn from that. And just this time is bad because of this. This time is good because of this. And even though we had our own ideas of like we think it's good in these conditions, we wanted to do it even if it was bad. And it gave us like a better understanding of knowing that, we can stay during these timings. And it just helps you understand things deeply when you focus on just something like that. And yeah, it's kind of always been my thing. And I guess, it's a pretty good way to improve. Mm-hmm. But I kind of picked up on doing that from like my experience with just leadership figures in my life growing up.
Well, I think, I've always been a fan of running drills, so that's really cool. Yeah. But also, I mean, the personal aspect I do think is there, just based on what I've seen from players talking about you, either online or to me personally.
I just try to make sure everyone knows that like I care, like about them improving.
Yeah.
Like I'm not in it to win for me. Like I want to win, but I don't. Like at the end of the day, I'm a coach. I want cool. Who cares? I want everyone else to get better. Mm-hmm. I think that's my biggest thing. I like seeing other people improve and get better and be happy because they got better.
So what's your kind of fascination with the Australia League? Because I know you went over there like a year ago or something.
Yeah.
Obviously, you have FBI on your team, and then you brought over the OS players that you were talking about earlier. But I know that other guys that aren't on your squad right now who have come over from Australia, you've interacted with them as well, and they've even talked about you. So what did you see there? Like, what kind of changed your mind when you went over there?
Well, first, it's not like a fascination with Australia.
Okay,
really.
It's probably worded that wrong.
No, it's okay. Like people look at it like that of like, this guy's like importing his Australian friends or like people from that. I think that wildcard talent are good. I think people are pretty bad at identifying talent in the first place. These guys aren't going to be as smart about the game in a lot of ways because their region kind of inhibits them from doing that, like as players. And I think there's guys that just have like raw talent. They're just not in the best place to like actually mold that. And like my biggest thing was just finding people like that and helping them get that opportunity. So because I went and worked in Australia, the easiest like avenue for me to find people from that was through Australia. Just because like I had connections with those people there. So I talked a lot with them and I tried to help those players and I still try to. Just understand like these are things you can work on that you're not necessarily doing. Like your practice isn't giving you this and you need to work on this to be a pro player. But as you notice, like this year with us picking up closer, like that's from Turkey. It's another wildcard region. I really think wildcard region players are good. And there's people there that people should be looking at. And there's no reason they shouldn't be outside of, I guess, like I can't get a visa for this person because of where they live, I don't know. I've always hated the idea of just importing like someone from Korea or China or whatever. Because like we know those regions are good. So those players probably learned something, they're good. I feel like sometimes it's kind of just like a cop-out for I just want a good player now because I can't really teach them. And I really believe in myself to be able to like grow players and help them become like better pros. And eventually they'll be like top players. I I tried to do it with Lost. He was on Fox. Fox was a mess, so I never got to see that one out. But I still obviously have like really high hopes for Lawrence, and I hope like he does have a successful career. And then it turned into doing the same with FBI or Victor. And yeah, I feel like Victor's a great player. He's got his own issues, but I'm trying to help him get through those and improve. So yeah, and then on staff, like we interviewed a lot of staff, and like I even told our management with the people we're interviewing, like I really want you guys to be in the interviews and like give me your honest opinions of people we're looking at, because I don't want to just come in and like I'm biased towards these guys and people see it as like I'm biased towards these guys. They were just the best interview candidates, like by far. Like it wasn't even close. They're more passionate about this. The whole reason they were playing in Australia was not for money or anything. Like they're not making anything over there. Like they're just passionate about it, and it shows in what their work and how much effort they're willing to put in. So they just won out over every other candidate because of that.
I think that's a pretty good point, actually, the last one. It's a little like silly. It's not something that people would want to focus on, but yeah, I guess if they're not making the same salary as NA, Korea, or China, or Europe even, then they must be in it because they really want to.
They're in it because it's their thing, man. Like they've dumped their life into it, basically. So it's kind of like they have to do this or it's kind of over, you know? Like they got to fall back on some other options. So they're just passionate people, and that's who I want to work with. That was the whole idea behind building our team in the first place with players and staff. Like I want to work with passionate people that actually care about getting better as a team. And I mean, that's what we put together. So that's why we knew we weren't going to be 10th. Like no one was going to accept that from each other at all.
Well, I'm glad it's paying off. It's been really fun kind of watching that this season. One last thing before we go. Sure. What are your kind of big career aspirations? You've been on a few different teams. You've been here for a few years now. What are the next couple of steps for you?
My career aspirations. Yeah. I mean, there's always going to be the boring ones of let's win. Like, I want to win some shit. This is probably the first time I've been kind of stabilized in an org in my entire career. Like it's been a tough time even finding that, just to like build up a foundation of anything. So I mean, that's probably my biggest aspiration, is just to like settle down in a team and build out like a long-term vision of how to make players better, how to have this like infrastructure and process for people. That's my biggest focus. I really just want to get that and be set with that, because I think that's what will lead to the the winning thing. Mm-hmm. And obviously winning is the ultimate goal. So
well, it seems like you're well on your way there. So
hopefully,
congratulations.
Thanks, man.
And thank you so much again for doing a birthday interview.
Of course.
Happy birthday to you. Best of luck tomorrow. And thank you all for watching. For more Inven Global content, please like and subscribe below, and we'll catch you next time.
See you.